In this plank, we're going to go from a completely relaxed state to a completely contracted state. Come down to the ground with your forearms parallel to each other and your hands in fists. Press your fists and your forearms into the ground as you draw your elbows towards your toes imaginarily. Hold the plank for 10 seconds. Here are 3 variations of side plank, starting with beginner and ending with advanced. In the end, there's also a variation for those who have difficulties with their wrist, using the dumbbell as a support. The important thing to remember in side plank is that you want to act as though you're between 2 pieces of glass. You want your head to stay neutral, and you want your shoulders away from your ears. Try to squeeze up through the side body and maintain your balance for 10 seconds. Dead bug is a dynamic core movement. These 3 variations show beginner to advanced. What's important in all of these is that you keep your low back pressed into the ground. You want to prioritize protecting your low back in this movement rather than making your movements large with your hands and legs. In the beginning, you're just moving your hands back to the ground. Then, you're moving your feet one at a time towards the ground. They need not go all the way down. And then finally, you're moving opposing limbs out at the same time in a crawling pattern. You should feel a lot of work in your core. Plank with shoulder touch. Come down to a plank position with a wide stance in your feet. The objective in this movement is to keep your hips absolutely still. As a beginner, you're going to just march one hand up and then the other, alternating each time. As you progress to a more advanced level, you're going to touch opposing shoulder and then return your hand to the ground. Again, the priority here is to keep your hips still in this movement. The stiller your hips are, the more work you'll put into your core. Begin by lying on your back on the ground with your knees bent and your feet on the ground. You're going to tuck your pelvis forward each time before you bridge up off the ground. As you bridge off the ground, you're going to exhale and squeeze your glutes. Lay on the ground with your hands on your torso, one knee bent with the foot on the ground and the other foot straight up in the air. Bridge up and push through the heel of the bent leg. Squeeze your glute every time. As you push up, exhale. Inhale as you go down, exhale as you push up. Squeeze the glute every time. Make sure to continue to press through your heel as you press up. Band walks are a protective exercise for the knees. They strengthen the outside of the hip and the gluteus medius. Begin by placing the band around your ankles. Take one step out and meet the step with the other foot. Keep a little resistance on the band. What's important in this exercise is that your toes point directly forward. Don't allow your foot to turn out as you walk. You should feel a burn in the outside of your hip. If you're feeling a burn in the side of your leg or in the front of your leg, try to pitch your torso forward a little bit more and lead the movement with your glute. If you have an injury in one particular leg, it's good to give that leg a little bit more work. The way to do so is to begin the band walk in the opposite direction. Finish the band walk on the leg that has been previously injured because the second direction is always a bit more demanding. Banded squats are a great way to get extra work on the outside of the hip and in the glute. Begin by placing the band around your knees. Come down into a squat. by sitting far back in your hips, as though you were sitting on a chair. Work against the band and push your knees out so that your knees track directly over your feet. Do not allow your knees to pass your toes as you squat. And try to keep the weight back in your heels. Inhale as you go down, exhale as you come up. Keep your core tight as you exhale. To progress this exercise, you can hold a kettlebell or a dumbbell at your chest to add more weight. Cossack Squat. Come into a wide stance with your toes positioned slightly out. Shift the weight to one leg as you sit back into your hip. The knee must stay behind the toes on the bent leg. The other leg remains straight, and you feel a stretch on your inner thigh. The toes of the straight leg tip up to the sky. Come to stand by pressing the heel of the bent leg into the ground and exhaling. In this movement, both heels remain on the ground and the eyes on the horizon. The half kneeling press can be done with a resistance band, a dumbbell, or a kettlebell. This press puts additional demands on the core because of the half kneeling position. Come to a half kneeling position with a right angle in the front and the back leg. Squeeze the glute of the knee that is down on the ground in order to feel more supported in this press. Come straight up in your press and turn your palm out. Inhale as you come down, exhale as you press up. Come to a fully locked out position at the top every time. If you feel secure in this movement, you can challenge yourself without increasing the weight by reducing your base of support in your low body. To do so, bring your front foot closer to your midline so that you're tight roping between the two legs. Incline push-up is an easier push-up because it requires you to manage less body weight. The higher your incline, the easier the push-up will be. Find a place that you can push up from in which you can meet your chest. Don't progress lower until you're able to push up from that position. Start out in a plank with a tight core, your head aligned with your back. Bring your hands directly under your shoulders. This is a narrow push-up. Hug your sides with your elbows as you come down and push the surface away from you. Inhale on the way down, exhale on the way up. Seated row. Sit on the ground with your feet placed out in front of you. Engage your core and look straight out with a neutral neck. Put your band around your feet and draw your shoulders away from your ears. Pull your hands to your waist as you squeeze your upper back. Inhale as you pull, exhale as your arms straighten. Come into a lunge position in which your front leg is bent and your back leg is straight. Be on the ball of the foot in the back leg. Your head should be in line with your back. Row on the side that has the leg back. Keep your elbow close to your body and pull with the muscles around your scapula as you exhale. Your core should be engaged and your shoulders and hips should be square. Suitcase carry. Hinge at your hip using a deadlift stance. The shoulders must be higher than the hips. Engage your core and keep your hips and shoulders square as you lift the weight from the ground. Walk forward with deliberate steps with your eyes on the horizon. When you return the weight to the ground, keep your hips and shoulders square and your back flat, and remain engaged in your core. Start out by sitting on your side and grab the lower leg. Lay down, Now grab the top knee with the other hand. Look in the opposite direction and try to open your shoulders so that they both reach the ground. This may be challenging at first. This stretch goes to wherever it is needed. You may find that it feels different on each side.